So I recently picked up one of these things. It's a Quansheng UVK5 or K6, K58, whatever it's called. They're all basically the same radio. And I got one just for tinkering around with because there's a huge community that's evolved around this radio because it's so easy to modify. You know, you can upload any firmware you like to it. There's virtually no restriction on doing that. And there's a whole host of different firmwares and different things that you can do with this radio. So I thought, I'll have a go at this as well. What I wanted to do was to create a remote control system so that I can control the radio from the PC side. It kind of acts like a docking system. So it turns the radio into a kind of a base station setup. Obviously, it's never going to be as good as one of those because this is only a cheap radio. I mean, you can pick these up for less than £20. I mean, I picked it up more money than that because I ordered it from a UK seller because I didn't have the patience to wait. But yeah, they're still dirt cheap radios. So, you're getting what you pay for. But in any case, it's fun to tinker around with these sort of things. So what I did is I nailed together quickly some firmware and software that will allow remote control of it, and basically, act as a docking system so that you can do everything from the PC side. Well, pretty much everything. You still need an external microphone in order to transmit voice because the when you plug things into the ports on the side, it cuts out the microphone, it cuts out the speaker. So you need to route the microphone audio input and audio output elsewhere. Now, for the audio input, you can just use an external microphone. I suppose you could use the audio from the PC, but then that would be getting really, really complicated. And then the audio out from the radio is converted to line input level, and then that's taken into the PC, or you could just plug it into any sort of line in amplifier, set of PC speakers, for example. But I personally do it through the computer, and the application that I've written has like a pass through so that you can listen to it. Give me rambling on here. So what I'm going to do is start up the application and show you how it works, and this video is basically acting as like a video documentation because all of this is on GitHub. There's descriptions of how you need to set up the wiring harness to get this to work with the audio and all that, but it will just work with the programming cable if you just want to play around initially. But to get audio in, audio out, you do need the wiring harness. So anyway, let's start the app. So this is the front end. As you can see, it kind of mimics the display on the radio. Yeah, so you can just type in whatever frequency you want. So all the buttons on the front here, they pretty much work exactly the same way as they do on the radio. They're just being moved around a little, like these top row of buttons is sort of in different positions, but they do exactly the same thing. So you can go into the menu here, scroll through the menu, and change the bands. And there's also keyboard shortcuts, like, so I can just press the keys to do things like that. So these two buttons on the side, SQL and the flashlight, these are basically the side buttons just near the push to talk button, and you can program these to do anything you like really, but typically they're set to squelch. Turn the squelch on and off, and the flashlight. So we also have settings here. So this is the settings window, and the settings window lets you change various things. Now this is the COM port up the top. This is obviously what your serial cable, your programming cable, is set to. Then you have the line in and audio out, which is going to be used for the pass-through, if you're using the pass-through. If you're not, you can just untick that. If you're taking the audio to another source, like an amplifier or something like that. If you are using the pass-through, you can control the volume with this. This changes the background and foreground of the LCD display. So if I wanted to make this look a little bit more like the original radio, I can change the background to orange and the foreground to black. I do have to refresh the window, and now you can see it looks a little bit more like the original with the color scheme, but that is a little bit too bright for me, so I tend to have it the other way around. So let's put let's put black as a background, orange as a foreground, sort of invert it. You can change the font as well, so if you wanted to for some reason have it in Comic Sans, you can absolutely do that. Why you would want to do that, I don't know, but it does illustrate something. You can see the L here has sort of disappeared off the bottom, and this is because different fonts have different sizes and things, and there isn't sort of one size fits all for fonts. So if that happens, you can try and sort it out using these options down here, which basically let you fine-tune a font. So in this case, I think I need to change the vertical size. Let's drop it down to 0.9 and see if that fixes it. Yeah, there we go. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go down another one. Yeah, and that basically fixed the font. So you saw vertical size, and obviously horizontal size is basically doing it the other way around. And then you have offset, which is like a margin, moving it left or right, up or down. And then F stretch is used. You can see this frequency, this large frequency display. Well, anything that's displayed large like that, you can set how much it stretches it. So if I turn that down, you can see all it changes is that big text, because sometimes that can be, you know, quite too big or too small. So that allows you to fiddle with that. And when you change a font, it will remember. You can see all these settings that I've set here. If I change back to Consoles, because I do actually recommend using a fixed width font, and it hasn't worked. So that's a bug. I'm positive that was working before, but it isn't working at the moment. So that's a bug I need to fix. I'll leave this in because, you know, this type of thing happens all the time. But yeah, what's supposed to happen there is when you change, it remembers all these settings for each individual font and then reapplies them, but it didn't happen then. So I'm going to need to investigate why that's stopped working. But don't worry, that will be fixed as soon as I can. Over the right hand side, you can see we've got push to talk. Now that doesn't work because you need to turn the TX lock off. Okay, that's just something that I added just for safety. You might have noticed on the right hand side that there's other options. That's for the spectrum analyzer, which we'll come to in a minute. This is the channel editor. This will let you see unused channels and hide unused channels. Okay, so pretty similar to the way other stuff works. And in this display, unused channels will show up as grey, used channels will show as white. Now you can't see any used channels at the moment because I haven't read them in from the radio or loaded a file, so I'm going to do that now and read my channels in from the radio. Okay, and there you can see my channels. I've currently just got the UK PMR channels, a local repeater, and the CB channels programmed in. And of course you can collapse that to hide all the unused ones. So group and ungroup. What they're for, let's say I select channel 25 to channel 35 there. If I click group, you see they turn blue. Now anything I change within that group will change throughout the group. So if I change the step here to 25 kilohertz, you can see they all changed, right? Change the power from low to high, and they all change. Now the way channels are set up for whether they're used or not is the RX frequency is set to 0. If the RX frequency is set to 0, the channel isn't used. So if I change this to 200 here, you can see they all change to 200. Remember the step here is set to 25 kilohertz. If I edit the first one, so the first entry in a group, so I'm going to set this to 300 megahertz now, and watch what happens with the ones underneath. You see how they all increment depending on what your step is? Right, this just makes it easier to edit a group of channels, because you know, with other editors you have to go through each one by one, editing the frequency, and it gets a little bit cumbersome. And similarly with the channel name, if you edit the first one and you end it with the number 1, you've got to end it with the number 1, but I'm just going to call this Chan 1, like that. You can see it goes Chan 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Just makes editing a whole range of channels a lot easier. So I'll ungroup those now. And of course, if you wanted to write those back to the radio, you just click write, or you could save them to a file. And here is just something that adjusts the font sizes. Again, there's a little glitch here. Can you see when I did that? This does that. So that's something else I need to look at. That's not like huge of a problem, but it's just something that bugs me. That's the channel editor. So finally we're left with the spectrum analyzer. Now to go into there, you click spect and you get this extra window at the right hand side. I have a number of presets set, so I'm going to put in the preset for the PMR channels. So this is going to start, this is the middle frequency, and then we have a step size of 12.5 kilohertz and 16 steps. This is actually 17 because the number has to be odd, so it rounds it up. But if I click analyzer now, you can see it is now scanning. I'm just going to take off the trigger. It's now scanning all of those frequencies. Now it's pretty quick because there's only 16, but if I go to like the CB frequencies, you can see it slows down because now it's scanning 40. If I go to something like 99, you can see it slows down even more, right? Because the radio just isn't fast enough to be able to scan things that quickly, so it's just the best it can do, really. And it's triggering because I've got the trigger thing on. Okay, so let's go back down to the PMR. All right, so there are a few different ways that you can view the spectrum analyzer. There's the bar display, there's also the line display, and heat. Heat is basically, if I bring the noise floor up, you can see how that's working. The higher the signal, you know, it's basically just a gradient, and it uses the same gradient as a waterfall, which I'll show you in a minute. Normalize. Okay, let me take this off so I can explain what that does. So at the moment, this is just a basic floor, and there's not much happening. With the amplification turned down here, it won't really pick up any signals, so you have to turn the amplification up in order to you know, to resolve signals. But when you do that, obviously it amplifies the noise floor as well, so you have to keep bringing the noise floor down, amplify up, noise floor down, and so on. Right, now what you can do instead is click normalize, and this acts like a kind of an AC coupling, if you like, and it takes the median average of all the signals that it's seeing and it takes it away from everything, and that basically keeps the noise floor at the bottom. Just change the amplification here and it won't change the noise floor. Yeah, so that's all that does. You've also got a waterfall display, and this is pretty limited because of the radio, but this changes the speed of it. There's no real signals in my area that I can show you. Actually, I can probably do it from, okay, hang on a second, let me change to 430.91250. And I'll change to, let's say, 50. And there you can see a signal coming through there. A sproggy signal though, I don't think it's a real one. There is a local repeater somewhere here, so we'll wait until that sends some transmission so that we can see what's going on. So while we're waiting for that, what I can do is set a trigger level, and the trigger level will cause it to go into monitor mode. So let me set the trigger here so I can demonstrate something else. So as soon as this signal here gets above that line, you can see it goes into monitor mode, but it's a nuisance. So what I can do is I can right click on it and ignore it, and then you can see it changes color, and now it won't set the trigger.
B3SR.
There we go, finally. So yeah, that's the basic rundown of the functions of the software. So I know this presentation is pretty rough, but so is the software. So thank you for watching, and see you all later. Bye.